Well, we got done with the V drive and came across a couple new problems. As soon as we got done with the V drive, I looked down and I thought that it was leaking transmission fluid, but turns out that's not the case. It was the marine diesel fuel that was down in the bilge. So I found out that the fuel pump was leaking, and I tried to repair it in a couple of different ways and realized that that's what I was trying to do wasn't fixing it. So I figured out that it was a big O-ring inside the fuel pump. So I basically had to rebuild the whole fuel pump. And then as a bonus, after we got done, as a bonus, once we dealt with the fuel pump, I found out that our wind sensor, our wind speed and direction sensor failed. So just for anybody that might want to know if this ever happens to them, because we kept struggling with that and we thought it was the actual wind sensor itself, and Garmin sent us a new one, and that fixed it the first time, but they said that it was
that was in January, though.
That was in January. That was a while ago, yeah. So now it happened again while we were sitting here right after we finished the fuel pump or whatever, got done with that. Actually, sort of before that, but called up Garmin and they said probably not the actual sensor. It's probably actually just the connector. So I had to cut off both sides of the connector and rewire on a field installable connector, and sure enough, that fixed it. So if your Garmin G-Wind wired sensor keeps failing on you, it could be just the actual connector. There's something faulty about the connector.
But Garmin was awesome, and they warrantied it. We didn't
did.
have to pay for shipping or nothing. Both times.
Both times. And this particular time, we're in what we would consider a foreign port because it's not our home port. We sailed here and we're kind of like stuck here waiting for the hurricanes to go away. And they sent it to us to a friend of mine's house that lives down the way, and it got here in like 2 days. It was really quick. So they were really fast about it, and that fixed it. So fuel pump we dealt with, and in this video you'll see that we are dealing with it, and then now it's done, and the wind sensors. So now I think the boat is... Oh, and we ordered a water maker, so maybe we'll put that in a new video pretty soon.
We don't get that till Monday.
We don't get that till Monday, though. So
we're super excited.
Yeah, anyway. All right.
So enjoy the fuel pump rebuild.
Yep, here goes. So I can't do this to the pump side, but you can see that there's small, like rust pits there. And there was an actual a low spot right here. Sorry about the shaky hand. All I've had today is coffee and a salad. So what I did is I took my...
I put chicken in the salad.
There was a little bit, but I'm still shaky because I'm malnourished. But anyways, I surfaced this, if you will, on both sides, and then I ran it on the... And this is flat. Don't worry, it's not. I keep this flat. I know the stones tend to sometimes get a ditch when you sharpen them with a knife, but I keep it very, very, very flat by using a marble stone and 1200 grit sandpaper. But anyways, this is flat for sure. They both are. But I started here 1,000 and this is 5,000, so it brought it to a pretty decent grind. There's not really much of a granular path for the fuel to leak through. So I can't do that on the pump side, but I can do it on this fitting, and potentially that was hopefully the part that was leaking. So now I'm going to reassemble it and move on to the next. So maybe it can be seen better on this one. As I start, you can see that there are potential pathways for fuel to leave the surface there, to go through the surface like a blown head gasket, if you will. So I'll continue surfacing it a little bit and take another quick video. Okay, so that's a little bit further. You can see that down in the lower, slightly lower, well, lower, just barely to the right, there's like a little potential pathway. So I might surface it a little bit further, and then that's the grain that you can see with the 1,000, and then I have to do it with the 5,000, and then it'll be really like almost polishy smooth. So, all right, so that's it finished, and the other side is basically the same, but it looks even better. There's not even any of those little rust dimples like there is right here. Right there. But there's still a flat surface that the washer, the banjo washer, will get around that. Anyway, so I had to take, I showed you a video of me doing the fittings, which are right here, and the one below it, and those fittings with the banjo fittings on it. Turns out that's not what's leaking. This going into here, there's an O-ring that wraps around this thing, and that O-ring is leaking. So I have to take this whole front portion of the pump out. In doing so, I have to take out this to get that out. In addition, I have to take that out. And then there's another thing on the bottom I gotta take out, the mechanical advance. So I have to make a video of this, the settings here. One being that's on the first setting right there, and this being in, hard to do, what looks to be the second hole of that tab. Okay. And that is where those need to be. So, okay, pump is now out. This is the O-ring in question right here, and it feels very much like it's not protruding outside the slot. In fact,
anything you find there, put in the tissue.
It looks compromised. It looks like you can see right there that it does like a little S curve. And it looks smashed, kind of like right there, like unevenly. So, and it did leak from this area and around. I thought it was leaking out of these, but I noticed it coming from up here.
Well, can I give you a magnet to try and find it?
So now I'm going to replace that O-ring and clean this up. Okay. You're recording?
Yes, sir.
So point it down here. So how this works is this little knob that I have in my fingers.
It's kind of dark, like you're shading the light.
Yeah, this little knob right here with O-rings goes up through.
Hold on, I'm one of those people who's moving that like I'm all annoyed.
Pull it back
about.
further.
Okay.
It goes through this hole. There's another one that I'll show you in a second that goes through this hole. So this cap goes on the top. Then once the cap is on the top, this, let me see if we can get the light in a different place. This gets turned and pulls on all that. And this right here is the throttle. So pause the video. Is it recording?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the other one that if you see there's like a little, it's hard to show because I can't do it with the light, but this has a little knob on the end of it, so when you turn it, it's like a cam, if you will, and that sits right in this little thing right here. It moves that, if you can tell, moves this thing back and forth right when you turn it. Well, so what happens is, hold it right there. What happens is this is the throttle, basically. It pulls on that because this is what operates the throttle. It goes down, a little valve sticks down, and then there's a little slot in the valve, which I can't show you at this point. But you can push this, but this the throttle kill. So if you notice, when I push this right here, it pushes this whole thing back that way. So when I do it, you'll see it gets pushed back. Now, even if the throttle is depressed, if I want to kill the engine, if the throttle is full throttle, I can push on this thing and force it to close, because this spring right here just springs back. So even if I hold this and don't let it move forward like that, like this, well, if I hold it and don't let it move, you can see right here, it just squishes this spring and doesn't let the throttle open because it just moves it. So that's how that works. So that's how, even if the throttle is all the way open, I can still kill it with this knob here. And that's how the whole thing works. But it's important having the spring, the spring has to go through this second hole here, and then it has to be hooked on to, in this particular engine, it has to be hooked onto this last hole in the series. Right there, you can see it. There's 3 holes right there. It has to be hooked on the end one with the spring. I'll show you that in a second. Okay, pause it.
Time.
Okay, so that's connected, and as you can see, it's in the middle hole on that plate, and on this selection here, the spring is on the very last hole there. That's how it came apart. That's how it has to go back together. Different engines require different settings, different hole placement, but this one requires this. So now I'm going to put the top back on. So it's okay. So it's difficult to know if you have the throttle and the engine kill set up correctly inside after you've put the box on. So one of the ways that they say you can check is if you push the throttle without a return spring, and then if you pull the kill, it should pull the throttle back, which it does if you just saw. So I'll do it again, and then it just automatically pushes the throttle back, because I showed you how that little spring inside, even though it's, so like I can pull the kill and hit the throttle at the same time, because that spring that I was pointing out earlier just squishes, but it's trying to kill the throttle, and it kills it manually on the throttle lever itself that I showed you controls with the little slot in it. So no matter what, this pushes the throttle back and kills it. So that's a good sign that it's connected correctly inside. Now I have to hook up all the fuel lines and all that other stuff, which sucks, and I think I'm going to do that tomorrow because I'm pretty burned out and tired. So I'll do that tomorrow. Done. I've put it all back together. The fuel lines are on, all 4 of them. We have actually started it. The O-ring goes right in between this part and this part, so it's right inside that, under that shelf, and it appears to not be leaking. Like, I don't see any drops off the bottom. It's not necessarily wet. I mean, when I purged it, when I bled the air out, there was a lot of fuel all over the place because I leaked it all over the place. But so it's a little bit wet in areas, but it's not like there's no drips. It's shiny, so I have to like dry it, but it's hard to dry off diesel oil. So but it seems to be all sealed, so that's good. And now I guess I shall have to put on the cable that connects this and then the stopper to make sure I can stop it from up top. Turn the engine off, but that's it. Quita Merchant out. Okay, so got the throttle cable hooked up. Oops. Right there. And the bracket that goes to it, which is on the back of my, touching my fingernail, goes all the way across. And then this is the kill solenoid with this rubber boot on it. This is the solenoid itself. You can see that it just pulls on that kill lever, which is right there. And it's all done. And again, it's been running for a while now, basically heated up, if you will, and I don't see any leaks. So it seems to be dry, which is amazing because I was really stressing out about the fuel leak situation, and now it's not. So that's it. Quita Merchant out.